Hello there, my name is Isnos, and let's continue with our fighting series. And today we're going to be looking at how to make a beheading and with all the blood spilling out. So this is the animation we have. You can see we have blood coming out of this the torso and also coming out of the chopped off head. The resolution of the blood is a bit too low because I'm trying to record this tutorial, and if I increased uh, the domain resolution, it would be too slow for my computer. You can see even at this resolution is still too slow. Resolution is about 150, but if you crank this up, you should get better results than what you're seeing here. But basically this is what we are going to look at. See, the chick just slices this guy's head off. Now the blood starts spilling out, and you can see if you look closely at the torso. You can see, let me first hide the blood for a second. Also these emitters, see that part, same as this torso. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be looking at. Let's open up Blender. I've already imported the characters so that we don't waste time on that, and just rotate them face each other, just about there. Again, if you want to download the characters, you can just go to Mixamo, mixamo.com, log in, and then download the characters and the animation you want to use. As that loads, maybe let me just show you how to. So if you want to, you can find this sword swinging animation by just searching, and yes, you can search, I think, stabbing. That's what I searched. And it should bring, yeah, just go through the animations and find the animation you want, click on it, and also go to characters, click on the animation, the character you want to use, and then click download, and download that as FBX, and also download the skin. And after, just go under file, import FBX, and select the files you want to use. So if these are the two files you imported, you downloaded, you just select, hold on shift to select both, and then hit import to import them. They'll come with the textures and everything. So let's start setting up the timing here. So the hardest part of this is kind of separating the head from the torso. Maybe let me do that before I even start with the timing. So I want the torso to fall off as this guy is tilting his head around here. I think around here. So let's look at maybe, yeah, at around here. His head should be chopped off. So to separate the head, that's very simple. It's not that simple actually. Just go to edit mode and select the part of the head you want to separate. So I'll just use circle select. You can also hold down shift to deselect. I just want to have a clean loop selection around there. You can also hold down shift and then out to deselect an entire loop. Let me select that, deselect that, and I can see that's what we want. So what we're going to do is use Y to separate the head, from the rest of the body, and I hit P to separate the entire thing. So separate by those parts. Let me turn on random colors here so that we can see the different meshes. You can see where the head is being separated from the mesh. Because the head is still parented to the head is now a separate object, as you can see, but it's still parented to the armature. That means that it still carries the same animation, and will still look like it's still attached to the main torso and deform as expected. But if you want to separate, to kind of chop it off, you have to pick a frame, like say at around this frame here, you have to pick a frame and then duplicate the head again. What I'm going to do, because we also have these other elements attached to the head, the eyes, the hair, the mustache, I'm just going to select all of them except the bones. So I'm sure make sure that you also select the jewelry or rings attached, and then duplicate them like that, but make sure you don't move the head to 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 not move the head. After you duplicate, just right click on your cursor to unmove or cancel the movement or translation, so it will stick it back to its original position, and the animation will still be there, but we don't want that deformation. We want the animation to, after the head is detached, we want the rigid body system to take effect, the head to be animated with the physics system. And the reason I separated, I duplicated this is because you want the head that will be animated using the physics system to be separate from the head that will be animated with the bones. And we don't want other deformation there, because if this head is separated and it's being animated with the physics, and you still have the deformation from the bones attached to it, controlling it as well, deforming it, you will have the deformation as this falls to the ground, and we don't want that. So make sure you have it separated, and to make it easier for us to select it, I'm just going to add the entire selection into their own new collection. I'll call this head detached, and now I can select the head and go under the modifiers and apply the armature. This will make sure that we don't have any motion to that. Sorry. This will make sure that we no longer have any motion to that. And just so I know what frame I separated, I attach this from. I'll just press M on my timeline to add a marker on that, like that. So I know that I can just go back to this frame to know the location, the point at which I separated the head. So the other thing I want to do is I also want the other attachments to continue to also be available, or to also be attached on this other head, because remember, we duplicated the hair. As you can see, we have now 2 copies of it. One will be for the head that will stay attached to the torso, and one that will be kind of detached. And I will just keyframe the visibility of the element to hide this head that is still attached to the body after we chop it off. So to round this frame, let me hide the original head, and let me just move. Actually, you can just select the head that we are going to use for this physics. I think it's this, and then shift key collection. Okay, I think I messed up that a bit, so let me first undo this. I think, where is the head? Because I want this to be in the detached head. Okay, I think I inverted the selection. Instead of having this head in the detached selection, I have the other one. So let me just move this back to the main collection, and this should go to the detached head. And see, now I can select this Shift G collection, and you can see I'm selecting all the other attachments that we want, including the eyes, the hair, and everything else. So let me just move back to my original frame. Now I also need to apply the deformation of this, but I need to make sure that I'm selecting the right element. So select the head, Shift G, select everything in the collection, and then I'll hide everything else that I don't want to, that won't be attached to the detached head. So I want to apply the armature for that, and that, and also these rings here. And just for the case of simplicity, I'm just going to join these attachments into one object. Let me see, I think the eyes, we also need to apply the armature for that. I'm just going to select everything here except the head and join them to the hair, so that we have just a single mesh like that we can parent to the head like that. Control P, keep transform. Now if you unhide, yeah, we know that our head is here. So something like that. So now we can start playing with the physics of this head. So we can just let me first hide everything except the head and the hair. So this, I can go under the physics tab and give it a rigid body system active. If you play back, it just falls down. Let me add a ground. And also, if you see, you can see our origin is down here. I want it to be reset to the middle, so origin to geometry. If you play back again, let's make sure that this is a rigid body, passive. And I think I can apply scale and rotation. Let's see, let me also apply scale and rotation for this. Okay, I'm wondering what this is attached to. Let me see. Let me just clear parent. Because this was a child element of the armature when the armature was a deformer. It still has that parental link. So I'm just going to clear parent and keep transformation. Clear transformation. I think the hair also has that. Let's parent it to the head. I'll also make sure that the origin is still reset. Let me see, what is this attached to? Oh yeah, the origin of this the hair should also be reset. Now if you play back, getting that, let me make sure that this edge is filled. Let me see if we rotate this. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better, but we want it to start with the original rotation, so yeah, I think that's better. Great. I'm just going to give it a slight animation, so I know at this frame, just make sure how it's selected before. Let me first remove the rigid body. So I know I want it to start at this frame, so I'll add a marker keyframe like that, and want it to be chopped off and then kind of start spinning in the air going into this direction. I think I chose the wrong frame to cut this off, because you can see this still has a deformation. I think the best frame to use should have been when it's still straight like this, so we don't have that deformation, but it still works here. So at around this frame, yeah. Okay, we want it to start at this frame and then be cut off to that frame. So we're going to use this animation as our initial velocity when turning on the rigid body. So I'll turn on rigid body and go at frame around frame, let's see, frame 15. We can turn on animated, keyframe the animation property, and then turn it off so that the rigid body system can use that as the initial velocity. So if we play back, see it just falls down because I think the velocity, let me just make sure that this is animated correctly. Yep, I think the velocity is not enough, so I'm just going to bring these keyframes so that, yeah, I think that is much better. You can see the head is now jumping off. Now we just have to animate. If you go under display, visibility, you have the show in viewport and show in renders. So we can animate these values so that we only see this head when we want it to be shown, and the same for the hair. I think we can also get away by just having this as a single object instead of these being separate objects. But that will depend on how you want it. But just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to merge them into a single mesh so that we only animate these values here. And hopefully that has not affected the rigid body system. Great. So yeah, now that we have that, we can just go to around this frame. This is when we want the head to start showing. So I'll first turn off the keyframes. Sorry, turn off show in viewport and show in render, and mark a keyframe for that, and then go to frame 14 and bring back that object. Make sure you mark keyframes for that as well. Now, if we play back, see we no longer see the head, the other head. So now, if you can see, it just pops out, and so we also have to go back to this frame and start animating this other element. So at around this frame, I want this head to be shown, and at frame 14, I want it to disappear. Okay, make sure you mark the keyframes for that. So let's see. You can see the other head disappears, and the rigid body head appears. But we still have the hair showing, so we need to also animate their property like that. So you can go in and start animating those keyframes for the show in viewport, for the mustache, the eyes, and the hair. But another easier way to do that is to select the head, go to the keyframe, to where the keyframe starts, go to the original head. Make sure you have the original head selected, and then select the other elements you want to hide. So I'm selecting the eyes. What else do we have? The mustache, and select the head as last, and then Ctrl L to link the animation data. This will copy all the keyframes on the head onto the other elements we have selected. And you can see now these elements have those keyframes as well, so they should disappear at the same time as the head. You can see now we get exactly that. If we go to rendered mode, see that chops off, and we're good to go. So if you want, you can select the final head, which should be the rigid body head, this here, and give it a different material. Give this part a different material. So if I go to the material panel, I can add a new material and assign it to that area, and that area, then that material you can give it a surface color with animate texture. You just texture it to look like meat. So just find an image I used here. No, let me just give it a red color, but you can, because I don't remember where the image is, so let me just give it a color. Yeah, and also do the same here. Make sure you fill it and then give it that same material. So this would have a texture to that, applied to that, and you would have that. So that's how you detach the head. You also notice sometimes Blender bugs out and the rigid body doesn't work. So if that happens, make sure you start from the from frame 0 to play back your animation for the rigid body to work correctly. I can see now it works. There's still a few bugs, but yeah. Now you can time your animation. Let me select this rig. So around here, I want the sword to be swung already. So something like that. Yeah, I think I did a mistake here. So I should be moving this, changing the timing of this character instead of this character. So I'll just select the armature for this and this, so that I change the keyframes for the entire object. And I also need to change the keyframes for this object, every object here. Hopefully they are all selected. No, you can do that on your own, but yeah, because I messed up a bit and I did the head splitting before I timed the animation, so it will become a brave mess for me going back and forth. So make sure you do the timing before you change anything, or else you can just go to have everything selected and go to the graph editor and offset the keyframes there for the object selected, so that you can offset the animation of this. But I'm not going to do that because that would take a long time, and we are already at 20 minutes. So the other things now left to do are quite simple. You can see the texture I used here. And if you look at this, you can see I offset the animation for this to time the sword swinging here. So now the blood is very simple. You just have to create a fluid inflow, and the ground is an obstacle. What else? Yeah, what I did is let me show you here. So I created this simple cube here. It's just a cube like this, and to get it to move with the animation, you just select the bone closest to it. So in this case, I'll go to this armature, control tab to enter edit, to enter pose mode. We just select that from the drop down list here, and then make sure you select it, and then go out of pose mode, and that will just set the bone you want to attach the inflow and the object you have as the active bone. And if you tap out of pose mode and select the object and then the armature, Control P, parent to bone. This will parent the object to the active bone you have, or previously selected bone, and then you will have something like that. And then you select the object, go to fluid, then set it as inflow, and you can make sure you turn on exported mesh, because this is parented to another object. It's getting its translation or movement from another object, so you need to turn on exported mesh, and you can give it an initial velocity that you want. You can play around with these figures because each scene is different. Depending on the scale of the scene, you might want different figures here. So play around with the figures here to see what you want, and from there, this will become your inflow. And the next thing you want, if you want blood to spill out from this object as well, because this doesn't have any armature, you just get a cube, move it to where you want it to be. Say, can just select this head, cursor selected, and then cursor selected, and then selection to cursor. I'm using Shift S for that. So then you just parent this to the object, Control P. Make sure you're parenting it to the right object, Control P, keep offset, and now it moves with that. And again, you just make it a fluid, type inflow, and it should start working. So then after you add another cube, this will be your domain. Just size it to the scene. And if you don't want an obstacle, you can use the domain as the obstacle. Just level it to your ground and go to rigid body, fluid, and set it as your domain. And you can start baking and play around with the fluids you have. So that's what I did to bake out this. You can see I have, let me first hide this. I have this as my inflow. I also timed the flow here to make sure just to set when the blood starts spilling. And you can see I set the flow to start at nearly the same time when the seed is chopped. You can see from the marker I set here. That mark is very useful to know to understand your timing correctly. And also did the same for this other flow. I think it's this here. Yeah. So it only starts flowing after the head is chopped from this animation. You just have to set a keyframe here. Use this to set when the blood starts flowing and when it stops. And that's it. Yeah, thank you for watching.